I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Arts and Design Special Committee. And we have two of our people who are not able to be here, and I think Marilyn is still on her way, but we have a quorum. I've asked Candy Worley to take over the task of taking minutes because Patty Hoffert is not able to be here today. So the first thing I'd like to do is to establish the approval of the minutes. Were there any changes or corrections on the minutes from our last meeting? Seeing none, okay, then we will accept them as written. Our first item of new business is to review the ideas for the golf course clubhouse areas. This was data that you had collected and at the walkthroughs, and we didn't have time to discuss this at our last meeting, and so I pulled off the things about the golf courses. And so this is a time for us to kind of just go through this and review what you found when you went around to the golf courses. So who was the first one that did Grandview? Okay, Candy, what do you want to tell us about that? I know we have the paper in front of us that have the write-up.
Just overall, there's a lot of beige, empty walls. On the left-hand side, there's a maintenance shed, and it's got really bare wall. I just thought some color there, or maybe the emblem. And then if you look on the right side, like where the crooked putter is, there's some room there as well. However, not quite as much. Maybe just a stripe or something, or a sail, if feasible. Inside the golf course store, there's no room for anything at all. It's packed. Bathrooms are very small, and the clubs have big bulletin boards where they put all their information, so there's really no opportunity there. And the crooked putter, they have all their own stuff on the walls. You know, they do rent that space, so I don't think we really have much to say there. Other than that, that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Trail Ridge. Who did Trail Ridge? Is this the one where we had several people doing Trail Ridge? Okay. Yes, Judy got the trails mixed up. It's Judy Gilpin.
Oh.
So we had a lot of coverage.
Well, that's okay. The more the
trails.
merrier.
That's right. Okay, so what did you find, Judy?
Well, we didn't find a whole lot, except that it needs new bushes, and the rock in some places is pretty bare. And I think Judy and her troop did the shed to the left of the clubhouse remove. And then up to the grassy area, up to the putting green, there needs to be some landscaping. It's just totally barren. And then it looks like they also install a full-length mirror in the bathroom, women's bathroom. And that's about it.
Okay.
And I just want to add to that, because I did this when it wasn't on my list, but Carl, did you go look at that shed?
Yes.
What'd you find?
It's in need of repair, so we got that on a repair and maintenance schedule.
Oh, you're gonna repair it? Do they use it?
Well, I'll inquire about that. I didn't talk to them. I just went and did a physical investigation.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
definitely an ill repair. So.
Okay, thank you. Deer Valley. Who did Deer Valley?
Oh my gosh, did I do that?
Yeah, I think that was your assignment, Judy. So, yes, it is, because
Okay.
you're talking about the mirror.
Well, they requested that the women have a full-length mirror. The ones that I visited, they wanted that because the women try on the clothes that are on sale, and they can't see what it looks like. The exterior is kind of bare, and I'm kind of going after the last week or so that Trail Ridge has our emblem on the front because they just painted that a year or two ago. And I think it would be kind of cool for all of where we're seeing bare walls, for all of the golf course pro shops to have our emblem. And that would be the art, and it would be consistent. And that I put the front wall was kind of bare, maybe a graphic or something, but I'm going to change that to perhaps have our emblem put on.
Okay.
Desert Trails I did, and they already have the emblem, and they wanted a full-length mirror in the ladies' room.
Okay, simple request. What, Carl, would you want to join in on this conversation?
Yeah, and I'll just add that at Deer Valley, in the next few weeks, in fact, this Friday, we're starting footers for a new shade canopy. So the patio in the front of Deer Valley will be doubled in size.
Oh, great. Super. Okay, Pebblebrook.
Okay,
Nancy?
yes, we did Pebble, can you hear me?
You got it turned on and just pull forward. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay, okay, so we did Pebblebrook, and pretty much of what's on this list, I noticed that it could have used window treatment inside the pro shop. They had a lot of stuff all over the place, and they had several pictures. What was it, the patio, the wall art on the outside clock wall, and the ceiling could have been painted, or could be painted. And they had a lot of unattractive announcement boards for leagues, but I don't think we really have much control over that, do we? What they do with their,
Well, unless we have some artistic way to help them out. When I was walking with Nancy, when we checked out this area, and I was concerned because it looks kind of overfilled with announcements, and maybe a good cleaning and finding out for sure exactly how many boards they need might help them. And I also had a futuristic idea that maybe we don't need so many boards now that we have the internet and we have ways for clubs and groups to communicate without having to have a paper copy. I don't know how far that idea goes because I'm not a golf expert, but Pebblebrook looked like it needed some help.
and then there, on the outside, there was that one building, and that roof was collapsing, and they have these, it really needs to be fixed. And they have these cork bulletin boards, and those were sagging, or they were just, it's like they need a new inside of that bulletin board. And the garbage area, there is something in the budget to enclose the garbage area, I understand.
Yes, so the governing board approved line item by line item capital projects. So after the May 24th official budget approval, then I can start that project July 1st, and that is a priority. The community is just showing up and dumping trash and cardboard into the containers, not really their purpose. So we are enclosing that with a nice enclosure. So.
Okay, Stardust?
Okay, the exterior, that was.
Oh, that's right, that was us too. Okay,
Okay, the exterior of the clubhouse needs painting. The inside clubhouse, I didn't think it was too bad. They had some decor along the wall, and but we've got on here, remove a lonely tree picture, and add a wooden golfer statue, and some real art to display. And then on the patio, I think, wasn't that where they had the signs of cigars, no cigar smoking, or cigar smoking signs?
yes.
And we thought wind chimes or to move some of the tables and chairs to a pleasant view instead of looking at the parking lot.
That came from Shelley.
Yeah.
Right, because there are opportunities there for putting those tables and chairs out where you get to look at the beautiful golf course instead of looking at the parking lot. Okay, Echo Mesa? Who did that one?
Yeah. Again, around the clubhouse needs upgraded landscaping, more bushes, more trees. And then the address on the outside of the wall of the parking lot, it looks like somebody decided to stencil it on there. And it's really, I think, not very good looking. And I think taking Judy's idea with maybe the logo of the community and then add the mosaic with the address on there would be a little bit more artsy-fartsy, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, so I think that we have possibilities at the golf courses too. When we went out scouting, that was questionable whether or not we would find anything that, could enhance the art in our community, but I think we found, there are some ideas that we could move forward with. Okay, so that, we've concluded that data gathering step. Then
Can
on-
I ask
Yes.
Carl another question?
Sure.
Would it be that expensive to put our logo on the other golf courses that don't have it? Was that a pretty inexpensive thing that they have on desert trails? Because I thought that was really making it cohesive, didn't you, Judy? If we all, like we've got the new signs that we got a couple of years ago, that it would be really nice to just make them all the same.
The main reason that Desert Trails received theirs was because it's the only pro shop that's not on a main boulevard. And it just kind of tied it into the street side sign. But I mean, it's certainly, when you make your recommendations, it can be discussed. That sign was approximately $3,500.
Okay. To be perfectly honest, when I first saw this new logo, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, I thought, what? But now I'm really liking it. It adds color. And I just think that would be a nice thing to do for the other courses.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to 3.02. Here, we're looking at the worksheet that is Arts and Design Club display ideas. And these are the connections that you were able to make with the different clubs to have a dual purpose, to find out what kinds of activities or art that they think that their club would be able to and willing to supply. And the other purpose was to inform them of what our committee is doing so that they may want to participate in community art activities or beyond that, and kind of, quite frankly, to get a reaction from them as to what our group is doing. And I've compiled the data that you were able to give to me. Understandably, many of the club people said, okay, I've got a couple ideas, but I really need to talk to my board and talk to my membership because I think they would come up with other ideas as well. So this is, I see this as a process that is in the works. I would expect that in the next couple of weeks, you'll hear back from some of those people. For example, I talked to Rip and So, and they wanted to talk to a group of people to come up with some ideas. And then they will call me back, and then I'll be able to add that information onto the sheet that we have here. So I would assume that most of you are in that kind of same condition, waiting for callbacks, waiting for them to kind of mill around some of the ideas. Is that a correct assumption? No. Okay, where are you at with? I got the feedback. I just want to get it to you. Okay, all right, so you've got the answers, okay.
They have feedback too.
Okay, great,
I
great. So
also
I'll-
do too.
Yeah. So let's just read through some of the ideas. Susan, you, or Judy, you want to talk about what,
Okay.
what your partner Susan
Yeah,
found?
she abandoned me.
Yeah, she had to go
She went back
north.
to, yeah. I'm down at where am I?
Patchers?
Oh, the Patchers, yeah, the Palo Verde Patchers, and they were only worried. They were worried that there would be some liability issues, which need to be answered, and also, like, they would love to do some hangings, but they would only do the hangings that were considered honor quilts, or they called them shelter quilts. And that's because the other ones, I guess, are very expensive. But the shelter quilts are really kind of cool anyway. They're kind of like patriotic quilts, the ones that they showed me, and the same thing with the honor quilts. What they would need us to do is to get the wood shop to make the hanging dowels, I guess you would say, which they have made for them in their own clubhouse. So they know how to do that. But we need to know, like, how do we go about getting the money to fund that, blah, blah, blah. So they're willing to do some hangings as long as it's in a safe, provided indoor area, you know, that's got maybe a monitor that's there. And then.
Is that what the Kuntz lobby represents? Is
The Kuntz lobby is what we focused on, yes.
Is the lobby considered the swim and fitness lobby or the courtyard hallways?
The swim and fitness lobby inside. So, yeah, that's got a lot of potential, and I think there's other places that have potential too. I'm not the one that was in charge over there at some of those other ones. But, and then they would even adopt, like that adopt idea that I brought in, where they would adopt a couple walls and change the quilts out maybe every month. I'm not sure if they do that in the summer or whatever, but they're open pretty much year-round. They've got over 200 quilters now. The facility is fabulous, really cool. But anyway, I'm off the subject. I also did stained glass, and Peggy Harding is the vice president. I called her up, and she's taking her father back to Minnesota, so she couldn't meet with me, but we will meet sometime in the future. And of course, they would need a window type of display, so we'll get together and figure that out.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. If you don't have a window, can't you put lights behind stained glass and create the same effect?
I don't know, I'll have to ask her. Good
Yes.
question.
Okay, Shelley says yes.
Okay,
Stained glass, I know, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
all right,
Great.
that's all.
In general, what kind of response did you get from the people that you talked to? How about the rest of you, when you talk to somebody? What kind of, are they
When I,
thinking we're crazy, or, you know?
When I talked to the president of the Clay Club, she was, there's always people that love to do these things, and the totems they've been doing lately that are in the courtyard in Beardsley, they love doing those. In fact, they just finished a whole load of them, so people would be very happy to do that. And there's also tile work that could be done too on the side of the building. So Clay Club was very happy to think about it.
So answer a question for me. Tile work, that's under Clay Club, or is that a separate club?
No, Clay Club can do tiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we used to have,
Yeah, interestingly enough, they had asked for a resetup of their monitor station, and at the end of their monitor station, they wanted basically a rectangle setup so that they can create little square tiles of art and then put a mosaic of them. So they do that.
okay, great. Yeah,
So it would produce a mosaic-like effect then?
Yep, that was their interest in how they wanted to decorate their monitor station.
Okay.
I'm in the Clay Club as well, and I used to teach school, and I did a mural of over 700 tiles for a school. And so I'm pretty familiar with how it works. It's basically glazing tiles and, attaching them, and they're permanent. It's very pretty.
okay, great idea, great idea. Does anyone else want to expand on the ideas that were typed up for your, on your sheet? Or are they understandable? Anybody have a question about anyone? Okay, so that's an ongoing thing. Get your information back to me, and I can add it on for our meeting that comes up beyond. And hopefully that will allow us then to pull together our ideas so that we don't have nothing but quilts hanging around, but that we have quilts, and then we also have tile idea, and we also have totems, and we've got things kind of spread around the community. Okay, the next thing is the arts and design data organized by ease of implementation. The last time that we met, we talked about, okay, how we were going to manage the, I don't know, I mean, were there 25 pages worth of collection data? And so what I did is I went through all of those things, and I tried to put them into categories. And I just guessed at, you know, which ones are easier or lower cost, and then those things that I thought that were, you know, going to be more expensive. And then I have a section at the top that I determined were time sensitive, because these are projects that are planned to be completed. And Carl had asked for, you know, some input for some of these. And I think we need to determine how soon do you need to have some of those things determined, and can we then make sure that we get those things moving? So let's take a look at the time-sensitive things. We met this morning and kind of walked through some things with the Lizard Acres, Lizard Lounge thing this morning, and so that's kind of happening like right in our face for some of the decisions. And the group of us were over there this morning dealing with that. So, Carl, tell me about number 2 there, parking lot lighting and that kind of thing. Is that something that you need some assistance with, or is this not something that's happening till next spring? Kind of know what I'm asking?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
So, on the comment here of old logo wall sconces, so I will include that into my scope of work, because currently the scope of work is for parking lot lighting, poles and fixtures, and then the walkway, meaning along sidewalks, it's a little black pole with the replacement fixture. I will go one step further with that and write an add alternate to see what it would cost to replace the sconces, so.
Okay, so that's basically, you're taking care of that?
I will take care of that, yeah.
Okay,
But mind you that it'll, most likely, the outcome would be, if it's a yes, that we would replace the old Sun City
Sconce.
logo clay sconce, it'll go to just a modern LED, dark bronze fixture to match other locations.
right,
okay?
right. I think the idea was to dispense with the old logo,
Yep.
which was the clock tower thing. And I think that what you're describing would be fine.
And then on the new signage, that is the master plan signage that we have used throughout R.H. Johnson. And during the late summer, you'll just see the new signage going in at Beardsley and at Kuntz, based on room title. So you know how above the rooms currently at Kuntz, you have like triangle signs that display, because they're hallways, and putting them flat on the wall in that tight courtyard atmosphere, it's not very legible. So we are copying the triangle, but the color scheme will match what we do at R.H. Johnson, the red, white, with a little bit of a blue, you know, our logos, our logo colors, so.
Okay, so that is really all taken care of
That
through
will
you,
happen.
and we don't have to, you know, be
Correct.
concerned about it, that, and your expectations, that's done this summer.
Yeah, by the time
Okay.
membership picks back up in October.
Great. Okay, what about the men's club? What's the timing on?
So Men's Club is also a summer project. When you say gut, you know,
That was our
it
suggestion.
is, the scope of the project is new flooring and new millwork around the perimeter of the exterior walls. So, and where that new millwork goes under windows, gets a new countertop space so that things can be stored on top, displayed possibly. But that's the extent of it. And then the painting of the hallways and the sagebrush room in the back, I believe it's called, or stagecoach room.
So do you need assistance from these committee members for that project? Do you want-
I would say, let me discuss that with staff first,
Okay,
because it's kind of already pre-planned, so maybe.
sure, okay,
Okay?
all right. And then the next one, of course, is the end of the Beardsley Pool, and I know that you were gonna get assistance from some of us on this committee about the color
Definitely.
plan. Okay,
And so this one will be a work in progress, so I will need point of contact, you being primary, and how we work this out through the summer months. I perceive that the Beardsley projects will be spring of '22.
okay, so we have time.
Yes, because
There's no
there's
urgency
so many
with
little
this
puzzle
one.
pieces that need to be put together,
Okay,
okay? So whether it's this committee as we stand today and everybody's re-volunteering next year, or a new committee, that would be the,
okay, but we have time that we don't have to rush with this, okay? And is that it true of
including
the
the
spa?
spa and the pool entrance, all that is
All of that
one,
together?
yep.
Okay, that helps. Anything with the library door remodel? I think we were talking about putting some color
I think we,
behind that.
I'll finish that project first and do all the repairs to the building, and then you can relook at it from a perspective of, you know, if there's room to place anything, it would be just like any of the other recommendations for areas of color
Sure.
or art. But
Okay, that doesn't have to happen
I
simultaneously.
don't think what I'm doing is gonna offer you any space that you haven't already realized,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
And then
And-
general landscaping, if you're making a recommendation to the board, then I would say have a conversation with Todd Patty before making your recommendation and just get him on board.
And I think that most of our issues with the landscaping is the lack of personnel that we've had to really keep things up, and that's why we're seeing some areas that need a little bit of a boost. So if we are able to employ more people because of being finished with COVID, we might be a little bit more successful with that.
At Kuntz, they've done a lot more planting now that they got the new irrigation in with all new.
Okay,
Bottle
great, so
brush and-
that's changed, so some of our comments have been taken care of. Okay. All right, okay, I wanted to take care of those things first. Then you've had a chance to read through the listings in the different groupings in terms of what I see as ease of implementation. Are there some things in there that are erroneous or I have misjudged putting into the wrong category? And maybe Carl, you've got the most input into that, but we wanted to see this in a different way. We previously looked at each spot, each rec center, and this is another way to look at the information that we gathered. So do you have questions? Do you question where things are located? Judy?
Yeah, under Kuntz, somehow there's some things that are missing. I just want to make a note of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
I can add something, give it to you, or we can add something. or-
Which category? Well, you don't know what.
Well, it just says Kuntz,
Yeah, but,
and then, so then you've got it again someplace else, is that
Well,
what I'm?
there are
I
three-
see, I got it.
okay,
I'm slow.
yeah. Okay, 3 categories. low cost, mid difficulty, and then costly kinds of things are the last area. Okay, so no questions on the data?
So Sue, if, let's just say like on this low to no cost, easier implementation, how do you want to get the information out to staff to consider making these improvements? Do you wanna, are you gonna ask the governing board first, or do you wanna have a conversation with, like, you know, I could say, here, this is the person that you should probably talk to about that. What would you like from me?
I think that's one of the things that we have to determine. We've just identified the spots, the ideas, the areas. And the one thing that we need to talk about is how is this going to happen? And I'll just tell you, you know, I'll take a stab at what an idea that I had, is that when we come up with an idea, and let's take Judy's example of hanging the quilts in the lobby, it would seem to me that we have to have a first step, and I think that's what you're asking about. So maybe that person, that first step person is the person who's in charge of the handling the money and handling the decision-making. We have and help me out with their title, but we have Jack that is responsible for RH and for Coons. So would it be reasonable for us then, with the idea that, as Judy's example, that she would then go to Jack, and Jack would evaluate whether or not this is going to work, and then he would be the lead person to make the purchases if he needs to buy the poles, you know, in order to hang them. And then Judy would identify the spots, and then Jack would say, well, okay, this will work, this one won't work. He would go work through the details, and it would happen in that way, in that manner. In terms of technically going back to the governing board, I don't see that the governing board wants to determine whether or not we hang a quilt in the lobby, okay? But at some point, the plan, and maybe the plan is the data we've collected.
Okay,
But if you have a better method for doing that, that's what we have to consider. For example, we don't have any funding now, so nothing can happen until after July 1st.
Sure.
But do you have a better option?
no, I think you've narrowed it down. I'm gonna take it to another level. So on the low to no cost, easier implementation, I meet with staff, all senior leadership on every Monday morning.
Okay.
So I'll ask Bill to put it on the agenda, and we'll do a quick level discussion of these items right here.
Okay,
And then from there, on Wednesdays, I do a staff meeting with just facilities maintenance. So, and that is where the Jack and Dave Bennett's and Russ are. It's Russ's team meeting. So then we'll go in detail about each one of these, and if there's any, let's just say negative comment, like, no, we don't want to do that for a reason, maybe the old
right.
lifeguard sign has to stay, I don't know. Okay, I will get that back to you in an email. But I would say the first step is that if I can get through these, they seem to be common sense, and maybe we can get that just all done,
okay.
okay? Is that
Okay.
helpful?
Yes, yes. And another example is, if you look at Palm Ridge, and one of the recommendations was to rearrange the furniture and maybe put some real art into the display that's in the lobby area. And that's a no-cost thing, but that is something where we need to get permission before we go off and do these things. So that would happen through the meetings that you have described, and the connections would be made in that
Okay.
way.
And then I'll get like authorization to do a handoff, meaning I'm not gonna
Right.
babysit that. I will allow you, to have one of your members meet with the Jack or the Davids of the world, or one of their staff to implement it, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And then we as a committee will have to decide who wants to take care of that particular project or that focus.
When is our next meeting?
2 weeks from now.
Okay, so I will have this to you well before then, and that way you can have maybe agenda for how that gets implemented.
Sure.
So if it's 100%, if it's 80%, if it's,
Okay, so you're looking at, you're going to deal with the low-cost, easier implementation topics, not the next level. Okay.
when we get
One at a
done with the
time.
next, yeah, let me hear what
Okay.
it is, yep.
Sure, okay. All right, does that sound okay to the committee members as to how this might function? Yeah? Good with that? Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the information from these 4 sheets? Everybody's good with where I've placed things? Okay, now, where are we with the agenda here? Okay, the one thing I want to remind you of is that we still have not done our large halls. And so for next time, I would appreciate if everybody tries to make it into the lecture hall, take some time to kind of mill around in this social hall, see what ideas you have. The theater we haven't been in, and we haven't really discussed Palm Ridge Ballroom, if that's the correct verbiage for Palm Ridge. Everybody usually says Palm Ridge, and you kind of know what you're talking about. So if you would do that and come and filter that information back to me, and then I'll compile it. And okay, you're also going to be compiling things from the clubs as those people are getting back to you with ideas.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Are the doors locked? We can't just walk in, right?
You can, no, they'll be locked at times, and you just go to the lead facilitator at each of the places. For example, at Coons, you'd go to Frank and say, Frank, I'd like to go in and do an arts, observation of the theater. Can you let, and they'll let you in. Where is the lead person here at Art? Oh, okay. All right.
And on
Okay.
that note, on the lecture hall, if somebody does, certainly take a look at the lobby, but the walls of the lecture hall are a special soundproof fabric, and that can't be modified.
Okay, so you mean you can't paint them? Okay. Can you hang anything from them?
No, it's already been clarified to me by Russ.
Okay.
He knows what's involved in that material and what's behind it, so
Okay.
it's not.
So something would have to be freestanding if it was in front of any of those walls, because those are the things that are
Yeah, and I don't know
pretty
if they're
stark.
from an ADA clear walkway path. I don't
Right, it
think.
would have to be really
Yeah.
thin, whatever it is. Okay.
I have a question. I know Palm Ridge's parking lot is going to be resurfaced starting, I can't remember the date,
May 24th,
May 24th, and that's for a month.
correct?
So the things that Kat and I found, as far as it wouldn't cost any money except for having a maintenance guy come and we meet with him and have him lower the picture, the artwork in the main lobby. How do we, are you going to tell us that at the next meeting?
What category did,
This was Palm Ridge. We wanted to kind of rearrange and make the pictures and the artwork at more of a
First page.
viewing level. And then we had a few benches that we wanted to rearrange. This was, and get some of that furniture out of the pool lobby. I mean, Kat and I I'm sure could do that ourselves, but we'd need
No,
somebody
you want
to
somebody-
carry the extra furniture
Okay, so-
out. But,
that would fall under the category where I'll discuss this next Monday at
Okay.
staff meeting. And then again on Wednesday with Russ's department leads, which is David and Jack, and get permission for you to do
To
that.
do that.
And I'll report that right after Wednesday's meeting, so by the end of next week, you'll have a report from me.
Okay,
On
and
this
you'll have a
section.
contact person so that Judy and Kat want to go over there on a certain day, they call up that contact person and say, hey, we'll meet you there, and can we do our little project right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so really, we can't be stepping out until after the next meeting, when we have that list of procedures and how things will be handled. Okay. Okay, so we met at the Sports Pavilion this morning, several of us, and talked with Barry and kind of watched the dartboards coming into the building and looking at the nice dark brown color that he had painted. Okay, well, the plan is totally different than this one now, so. So just imagine those little machines, those little pictures there in different locations. But we talked with Barry about what kind of tables and how much, furniture can fit in there. And he's going to confer with Bill Schwind in terms of the amount of money that can be expended. And so it's a work in progress. And Casey met with us as well from an entertainment standpoint. So we got some ideas. Do you have any more questions about that? Most of us were there. Okay, for next time, along with the other things that we just spoke about, I'd also like you to bring a potential list of community art projects. I don't know, I guess you can Google it, you can talk to other people, and let's create a brainstormed list. Remember that all the things that we're doing now are to help out in the future, so that we've got some of the data collection done. And as the committee continues, that implementation will happen over the next several years, hopefully. So bring your ideas, as crazy as they may be, and let's develop a list of different kinds of community art projects. We already talked a little bit about how we were going to get stuff done, and I think that what we've mapped out, I think will be successful. One of the other things that I will be talking about is whether or not this will be a board committee, or if it will be a separate council, or how it might function. There are some advantages and disadvantages to being a board committee, and typically board committees are policy. So this may become an arts council. It might come under a different hat, and I think that we want to talk about that at our next meeting and make a decision. I would hope that maybe we can conclude things at our next meeting, and we don't need that extra meeting at the end of May. That's kind of what I'm searching for and hoping that we can accomplish. So, do we have any comments or suggestions or further things that each of you want to talk about? Kat?
I just wanted to get additional information, since you're on the board, about the store where all the clubs sell their products closing on the 28th. They're really upset about that.
Yeah,
And I was kind of like the whipping post. So I wanted to find out if there's more information.
Yes,
or-
there's a committee meeting that's happening on Thursday, correct, Bill? And that group of people are going to talk about the issue and try and find resolution. So it's just static right now, and that committee has not met yet to determine the tax status and how that will be handled. Do you want to add anything else, Bill?
Nothing of real detail that I can share, other than we are trying to assemble everything that we've got in our possession, all of our legal documents, as far as our policies go and the bylaws go, as far as the regulational tools that the association lives by, and how that parlays into what the IRS is basically saying via code regarding 501c7 clubs. And so it's a revenue issue that we're trying to overcome. The way the bylaws and the policies are drafted currently, these clubs that we have scattered throughout our community, particularly the craft clubs, there's about 22 of them, that are generating far more money or revenue than legally allowable in the eyes of the IRS. And so we are trying to come up with a way to deal with that. It's going to either involve the governing board getting very, very active in redrafting policies and rules and regulations, or reeling it back into, I think, what the original intent of the policies and rules were, and that is to have these clubs remain social by nature and kind of eliminate the for-profit centers or the ability for individual craftspeople to profit, per se, from utilizing the clubs and all of the equipment and facilities that exist here. That's the tripping point for us. And unfortunately, we are facing serious fines if we get involved with the IRS, to the tune of $10,000 a club times 22 clubs. There's $250,000 that I don't really want to shell out on behalf of the association. So it's not easy, and we're trying to do the best we can for everyone involved, and hence, we're just gathering information as we speak now, and Ann Brown, our treasurer and board on the board of directors, is chairing that committee to kind of walk us through this and kind of being the lead on this as far as moving this thing forward. But again, it requires tax attorneys and everybody else that we're up against dealing with this unfortunate situation we find ourselves in.
So this really had nothing to do with the store closing down because of COVID? It was just because all of a sudden they were making too much
It was
money?
the kind of all the stars kind of aligned for us,
Yeah.
unfortunately. We had the resignation of Katie, or the retirement of Katie, and another employee that is also retiring as well, fall in line with the discovery via Kiva Bridge, which is the ones that brought us to our attention, when they went and did their end-of-year finances. Everybody has to do the end-of-year reporting. When they did, they went to an outside source, to a tax consultant, and because they were generating so much money with outside play and people coming in from everywhere playing cards, that they brought in more revenue than was what legally was allowable for a social club. And so when their tax consultant provided them the paperwork, he said, "Here you go, but I'm not signing that because it's illegal."
Wow.
And so that was presented to us. What do we do? And then at that point, well, why? Then so discovery, right? Why is that illegal? Well, in violation of 501c7 tax code. So peeling back the onion, how many groups are in? We have 103 groups, right? How many groups are in violation? Well, 20%, right? It's not everybody, but with the kind of the clubs operating as kind of retail and crafting centers, they've become more of a cottage industry than a hobby. And the village store propagating that by selling these products is contributing to the revenue problem that we were having going back to these clubs, and hence it blew up. So with Katie's retirement, it was an opportunity for us to just call time out real quick, and instead of adding to the problem, let's fix it before, and that's kind of where we're at today.
Right, okay.
And this does affect our committee because in some cases, we were hoping to maybe, display the framed photography, and have a little tag on there that, if they wanted to purchase, they could contact the club or the artist. So we want to make sure that we are correct with that.
But the language, it's kind of bizarre, because it's been going on for a long time, right? Katie's been here 16 years, and no real clamoring from the IRS, right? But it was brought to our attention, and then when you go back, kind of back to peeling back the onion, over the last 10 years, we've generated $7 million in revenue. And so, the IRS will scratch their head and say, well, why aren't we getting the taxes on that, right? Because if you were just, if you're a social club just quilting or making little stained glass things for yourselves or little wood products that, I was a wood shop member in the community that I live in, right? And so I was tapped on the shoulder a while ago, why are you making so many cutting boards? Well, I'm selling them. Well, you can't do that, right? Because you're not in business and we can't pay taxes on this, and it's like, oops. And so it's out there, but it's just so successful here, and it's been going on for a while that, the IRS can go back as far as the IRS wants to go back, and that is problematic. So we'll fix it somehow, some way, but it's tough right now. We're kind of in the early steps of kind of getting this thing amended.
Yeah, I have another question, and I hate to throw monkey wrenches into anything, but I was in Clay Club, and I know a lot of the ladies are very, very talented, and they sell their products. But when I was there, it said if you make anything in Clay Club or any of the clubs, you can't sell them yourself, like at a garage sale or at an art gallery or wherever. Is that in the bylaws, or could people that want to join these clubs but sell their items elsewhere, could they still make them in the clubs and sell them elsewhere so we wouldn't be impacted by this IRS rule?
The policies that currently exist have very simple English lines in them that say, these clubs cannot be used for personal gain, for financial
okay.
gain, and then period.
That's
right?
it.
But what has evolved, like I was trying to explain, what has evolved over the last 20 to 40 years is the evolution of a credit card. That didn't exist when these policies are being drafted and the bylaws are being drafted. The internet wasn't around in 1991. And now, as well as I do, home web pages and craft sales web pages are all over the place. So it's evolved into cottage industry, very easy to make a web page and sell some of the wonderful products that people do make. That goes on, and that is completely legal as long as you pay the appropriate income tax and sales tax associated with doing business. And that's what's being avoided here in the clubs because they have a tax-exempt status.
Okay.
And when you generate as much money as the clubs are doing and not paying taxes on it, we can't tell the IRS why, right? And that's the problem.
And as a clarification, they do collect sales tax for Arizona, so
That is correct.
that's not the issue.
No, it's
Yeah.
personal gain.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that clarification. No, it's not. Bill Schwind, our general manager. Oh, she's taking the minutes for the first time, so, sorry.
Bill, question? We're not the only community facing this, correct?
We have conversed with Sun City West, the other Sun City out on Buckeye
Festival?
Road. Yeah,
Festival.
Festival, way out. And then there's 20 other Del Webb communities scattered around the United States what are you doing with, your clubs and that? We have yet to find a village store in any of these communities for the same reason, right? It's an IRS issue. And so some communities choose to look the other way. Some have implemented, you cannot, they want to make sure that when they submit taxes as an organization, that no clubs can generate more than $50,000 annually selling crafts, we blow them out of the water as far as the amount of product being sold here. So there's all kinds of, there's not really one real way of setup. Most of the folks will tell you that their bylaws and their policies all basically state that making these crafts per se for personal gain are prohibited, and that these clubs are supposed to be for hobby and recreational and pleasurable use. And the money that you generate as a club should come directly from club membership, and that's your operating pool of money. And these are not supposed to be commercial ventures. So unfortunately, over time, the train fell off the track, and we're trying to get it back on the rails.
We do have other clubs that have a different tax status, and so 3 of them, so they're okay. So I suppose that's always an option too,
Right.
but this committee will
Yeah.
come up with some solutions
And
for
clubs
us.
do have that option if they think that they can, as independents, go out and get a different tax status than 501c7, more so than a social club, and they want to do something along the lines of what the auto restoration folks are doing, and they're C3, and they go out and they teach kids about the auto industry, and they do a bunch of public service work. That's an option, absolutely, if the clubs want to pursue a 501c3. But that is not for the association to grant approval of. That comes from the state of Arizona and the federal government as far as what kind of community service you're providing and whether or not you're free of any kind of income tax or not.
Okay, other comments from any of our committee members? Okay, just as a review, a recap, are going to continue to get to me any kind of club comments as you get that from the club people. And just an aside, I think people were really excited when I would tell them what we were doing, so I hope you're getting that same kind of feedback. Okay, so you're going to give me that club contact. Just send me an email and I'll add it onto the sheet. You're going to take a look at those areas like the lecture hall, the theater, the social hall, the Palm Ridge, and I probably forgot one of them, but at any rate, those large areas that we seem to have missed. And I'll keep in contact with the 3 or 4 of us that are kind of helping with the gathering place. And next time, you're going to bring ideas of potential community art things so that we can develop a list of those options for next year. And then we'll be receiving from Carl a feedback from how things are actually going to work with the other staff. Okay, so that we'll have that kind of clarified, and so we're not going to take any action yet until our next meeting. So, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, Kat? She's got another idea, good.
I'm harping on this for every meeting. I think we should also take a hard look at funding sources, because one of the, besides being the whipping post for the store closing, also the feeling of being taken advantage of by only offering to pay for their materials or to donate things or to display things and have them do all the work. They want to, they want to display something, they want us to be in charge of it, us to oversee it, you know. So I think it would send a great message if we were really actively exploring funding sources. Just,
Okay.
I think it's a
that's
respectful.
Yeah, it's another whole issue, isn't it?
Is that like commissioning a piece of art? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
That's one way you can use your funds, is to, you know, have a submission out to the entire community with their criteria, guidelines, dimensions. You know, I've done that before, where you can submit that. Here's what we have to spend, whether it's $2,500 or $250, then you get all the submissions come in, we look through them, we pick it, we grant that commission to them, and that's how you go about it.
Much more sophisticated than our approach.
I think, Sue,
Right now.
You and I were talking the other day in
Yeah.
in the managers meeting, with the president regarding, if we're doing $5 million of capital improvements a year, just to pick a number.
Mm-hmm.
And if the governing board agreed on X percent of that, 0.25, whatever, 0.08, and you
Mm-hmm.
have a designated amount of money that the committee can then use annually to help decide on what kind of art projects.
Right, and they might choose to do some that are, something that is very expensive, and then other things that are inexpensive. There could be a whole assortment of things.
That provides you a
Yes,
little bit
that
of a
would, right,
funding base to.
right,
So we have talked about that.
yeah. So maybe establishing some type of a policy among from the governing board. Mhm.
Funding policy.
Yes.
Right, right,
Yeah, that was my suggestion last meeting, to have a percentage of all capital improvements set aside, just as it's set aside for
right.
any other
And
line
this
item.
was, we made an attempt for the next year. I keep hitting that, sorry. I talk with my hands. Yes, setting aside an amount for next year that we had in the operational budget, the 30,000 that we have set aside. But what Bill is suggesting goes beyond that, which, does the percentage, and I think that that's definitely something that we could look forward to.
And Sue, I think that if that's the intention, and it sounds good, then we are a year out for that kind of.
Yes.
That would be like the second phase of this committee, meaning.
Correct,
When-
correct, because the budget's already set for next year, right. It would be a year out, yeah, before we could,
And then that would create a new allowance item that you would recommend to the
Right.
governing board would approve, and then we go from there,
right,
so.
yeah, excellent idea. Okay.
So how do we go about that?
Um,
If it's a year out, let's get
Well,
happening.
Finish this year's
You finished, yeah,
You would finish this year's business, and then when the committee, if it's reformed for next year, starting in September, the discussion would start with the leader of this committee as a recommendation to the governing board, and then the general manager places it into the budget, and then it goes through its budget approval cycles for the whole year, and July 1st of '22, if it was approved, you would have funds to do this idea.
so the budget process, Cat really needs to be put in by December 1st, so this committee would need to have that one of its first projects, and then submit that recommendation. And then the governing board would need to probably do something with establishing some kind of policy, because that's just not there right now. So that would be the process, that would be one of the first tasks.
What does everyone think? Can we make a motion and?
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day, so I think we just have to see what we can do.
I think we'll make sure that Candy puts that in the minutes, okay? So that when the committee forms in whatever format it's going to be for next year, that's one of the first things on the agenda. I think that, I mean, I
I have a
don't,
feeling I might not make next year's committee.
why would you think that?
Oh, I'm just making jokes. 99% of what I say are jokes.
Okay. Okay, any other comments, any other things? We all clear on what we're doing? Thank you very, very much, and I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.